So much has changed over the past 21 days given the elevated volatility and uncertainty. Well, with us now for more is Rastine Mercado, Research Director at China Bank Securities. So good to see you again,
Kathy.
Rastine.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm happy to see an upmarket there.
Yeah, me too,
After all
me
the
too,
Trump
me too.
tariffs,
Yeah.
steel and aluminum. I mean, are they really shrugging it off? What's the feel in the local markets?
I think yesterday you did see that volatility, right? That's why we ended lower. So we think that factored into that. But I think more than anything, it's another Monday of tariff threats. So I think markets had to digest that. So, and then I think you have reciprocal tariffs they're coming in as well. So I think right now markets are trying to price in what they can with respect to the changes to U.S. policy.
Right. And at the same time, we're watching the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas with its policy meeting. Everything that happens with the Bangko Sentral now depends on not just what the Fed does, but what Trump says about long-term government yields, treasuries. I mean, we never really saw it that way, but Trump has added that sort of an uncertain factor in.
Yep. So I think the good thing there is kind of it takes some pressure off of the Fed, because I think originally there was some, he had opinions about policy making, but the good thing with moving into the focus on the 10-year is that he's actually, that's something that he could try and control, or try and rein in, right? So I think what they're trying to do is, of course, first reduce the amount of government spending so that decreases the amount of deficit spending. They're also looking to lower inflation by ramping up production of energy. So hopefully, if that all pans out, then that could lead to that intended decline in the 10-year yield.
If, that's the big if, right?
Yeah.
And how the Bangko Sentral really assesses everything. I mean, locally, we've got government yields falling, and the peso is quite stable. And the Philippine stock market hasn't really rallied by much.
Yep.
I mean, you said 21 days have seen a totally different market since we started the year.
Yeah. So I think in as much as the BSP is concerned, right, Street thinks that we'll probably see 50 to 75 basis points worth of cuts this year, right? And I think part of that obviously is what the BSP sees the inflation outlook is going to be for the year. So Street thinks that it's going to be stable, and that's what policymakers have communicated as well, right? So that's all in good, and that kind of underpinned the optimism heading into this year. But I think the main uncertainty is now stemming from outside, which of course is the changes to U.S. policy. So I think really that has been that's like a concern throughout the year and possibly into next year. But more than that, I think recently you've had that noise around rebalancing. You have a couple more coming up. I think the MSCI is going to announce its rebalancing results tomorrow, and then I think another week later it's the FTSE, right? So that has been spurring some volatility, and if you did see declines in the PSEI, then you're expecting some downweights or probably some movements there as well.
Give us some perspective here, because to my knowledge and to the market's knowledge, whenever rates are coming off, then that's a sign to buy. Isn't it? Because there's a lot of money sloshing in the system, but it doesn't seem to be happening. There seems to be like a barrier there. I mean, why aren't we rallying to 8,000? I mean, Japhet, I was just speaking with him yesterday. He said, I'm looking at 8,000.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm going to hold you to that. Because it's like, how do you connect those dots?
Okay, so I think if you look at history and the past rate cut cycles, I think in the past 8 cycles between the first cut and the first hike, the average return was around 20%. Right. So I mean, like that adds some credibility to the idea that we should rally given economic growth expectations coming up, right? So I think the problem now is, or the difference now is that you have rates coming down. Technically, it should be good for business to expand, so that keeps your growth prospects up. The problem is you head into that uncertainty of whatever happens to the U.S. has ripple effects across the world, and that feeds into business appetite for expansion. Right, and even consumer expectations, or that could actually feed into inflation as well, right, or inflation expectations. So I think it's really that's the looming kind of cloud for the rest of the year. And some street analysts in the U.S. say that we could probably see the effects to inflation somewhere tail end of this year or into next, right? And that will feed into what our inflation expectations could be, right? So I think that's really where the cautiousness is coming from. But again, to your point, if those uncertainties kind of ease off, the rally that we saw in July to October of last year, that 6.5 all the way to 7.5, 7.6, that's certainly something that can happen again. The reason why we moved up from 7,000 to 7.5, 7.6 was actually foreign fund flows. So if those do come back, I think that we could see moves to that extent as well.
Okay, so make some sense of it all. Where do we put our money? Got to put our money somewhere. Is it stocks, bonds, or currencies?
Well, I think you need to always pay attention to stocks, right? There will always be opportunities in the market. I think, to be fair, bonds have been attractive because of how uncertain things are. You want some semblance of stability. But stocks can offer that. I think when we've been talking to clients recently, one thing that we've been trying to talk to them about was companies with high dividend yields, right? So there's that potential capital appreciation if the earnings do go up, and then you have that kind of safety of dividends, right? So in that sense, telcos are a good place to do that. Some power companies, Aboitiz Power, and banks in general also. And there's some semblance of resiliency as well with respect to the uncertainties around U.S. monetary policy, even us, right? So there's some offsetting factor between NIM compression and then loan growth prospects.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rastine. I'll keep that in mind. Dividend plays down the road. Rastine Mercado of China Bank Securities.